Shalom! Welcome to the second installment of the Flip Classroom, and what we are doing today is some extra information on Brachos. I hope that you've opened up the source sheet. What we're going to do is a little different than the first one. The first one, we went through a shiur, and then there were some questions afterwards. What we're going to do this time is we're going to go through halacha by halacha. There's 10 halachos of Brachos that we're going to do, a little more than what we've done in class. And after each one, what I want you to do is answer the question after each one. I purposely left off the English from the sources, so that way we're learning more as opposed to you just going through the sources afterwards and trying to figure out what I said. So what I'd like you to do is at the end of each halacha, I'd like you to pause the video and go ahead and then answer the question on that halacha. There are 10 halachos, 10 questions. Each question pertains to one of the halachos. Okay? So again, we'll do the halacha. I'll say push pause now, answer the question, and then you'll answer the question, and then push continue, and keep going. At the end, you can either email me or hand me the questions in class. Okay, so the first halacha, these are all from the Rambam, and what these halachos are, they're not so detailed to specific cases, they're more principles, and that's why I take everything from the Rambam. The Rambam writes in a more principled fashion. In other words, these halachos are principles of the laws of Brachos. Okay? Some of these you might know already, some of these might be new to you, but either way, I'm hoping that the learning experience is a great one. The Rambam says as follows in Hilchos Brachos, Parak Aleph Halacha Vav. This is source number 1 on your sheets. V'chol brachos kulan ne'amarim b'chol lashon. Okay, all brachos can be said in any language. They don't have to be said in Hebrew. They can be said in English, Spanish, Russian, Portuguese, whatever language you feel comfortable, you can say them. There is an advantage to saying them in Hebrew, but brachos can be said in any language. V'hu, but on condition, sheyemar ke'ein shetiknu chachamim. They have to be said as a translation of what the chachamim said. In other words, what the chachamim wrote as the bracha. Now, these brachos were authored by our rabbis, and you have to have, the bracha has to be said if it's said in a different language, with the exact same words that the Chachamim wrote, just translated. So you can't make up your own bracha thinking that you have somewhat of the idea. Okay. The v'im shina es hamatbea. Now, if you change the format of the bracha, in other words, you change not just the language, but the meaning and the format. In other words, instead of saying Hashem's name at the beginning, you say it at the end. So then, hoil v'hiskir askara machos v'inyan bracha afilu b'lashon chol yotzei. Okay, as long as you, okay, even if we've said ideally you shouldn't change the format that the Chum came up with, but as long as you remember to add in Hashem's name and the fact that He's the King and the idea behind the bracha, so as long as you said it in any language, right? As long as you have those factors, that you've kept Hashem's name in, you've kept the idea that Hashem is the King, and that you've put it in any language, and you have the format of the bracha, so then you're fine. So let me say it one more time just to make sure we're clear. You need to have, when you translate this bracha, you need to have Hashem's name. You need to have the fact that Hashem is the King, and you have to have the basic idea of the bracha. Let's give a practical example. So the bracha on a glass of water is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Right, that Hashem, you are the source of all blessing, the King of the entire universe. That everything comes from your word. So as long as you would have those ideas inside the bracha, you're okay. Okay, why don't you pause now and answer the first question. Okay, let's go to the second halacha now. The Rambam says as follows. This is from Hilchos Brachos, Parak Aleph Halacha Ches. This is source number 2. Kol habrachos kulan lo yasik ben habracha ben hadavar shemevarchen alav b'dvar macherim. Okay, anytime that you make a bracha, so I make a hamotzi on my sandwich. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Okay, so now I've made the bracha on my sandwich. I can't talk now between the bracha and eating my sandwich with talk about anything else. But and if I do, I have to, if I do interrupt, if I say, and before I take the bite of my sandwich, I see my friend and I say, hey, how you doing? Right? So if I do that, so then I have to go back and make the bracha again. This is called a hefsek, an interruption, and we're not allowed to have any interruptions. V'im hifsik b'dvarim she'im inyan dvarim she'mevarchen alav, eino tzarach levarach shniya. But if my interruption was about something that pertains to my eating, so then that's okay. So I'll give you an example. If I said, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lecha min haaretz, I need some salt. Could you please pass me the salt? That's not considered an interruption because it's about the sandwich itself. It's about what I'm making the bracha on. Right? But if it's not about what I'm making the bracha on, so then in that case I have to make the bracha again. That's called hefsek. That's not allowed. Why don't you pause here and continue, and then answer the second question, and then we'll continue with the third halacha. Okay, we're on the third halacha. This comes from the first parak of Hilchos Brachos, parak Yud Aleph. The Rambam says as follows: Kol hashomea bracha min habrachos mitchilos v'ad sofa v'niskaving latzeis ba yedei chavasa yatza v'af al pi shelo ana amein. Okay, now the Rambam says as follows. Let's say we do this on Friday night at Kiddush all the time, or at Hamotzi on Friday night and on Shabbat morning. Right? What happens? Somebody makes a bracha for us. Right? What does that mean that they're making the bracha for us? One person stands up and they make the bracha. Now, when they make this bracha, right? So they're making this bracha. They have you in mind, and you have in mind that I'm going to fulfill my obligation for the bracha with this person's bracha. That's okay. Okay, and the Rambam goes along and says, he goes on, whoever answers amen after the bracha, it's as if he himself is making the bracha, right? And he says, but that's only if the person that's making the bracha is obligated to make the same bracha. So in other words, if I have to hear Kiddush on Shabbat morning, and you have to hear Kiddush on Shabbat morning, I can make Kiddush for you because both of us have to hear Kiddush. But let's say I'm not planning on having grape juice, and I'm not going to, or I've already had grape juice, so I'm not going to make let's leave Kiddush out for this for a minute, but let's talk about a cup of water. So, I'm about to drink a cup of water, you're about to drink a cup of water, and I can therefore make the shakal for you. But if I wasn't going to have a cup of water, you're the only one. You say, listen, I'm not in the mood to make a bracha. Could you make it for me? The only way I can make that bracha is if I have to have a cup of water also. Okay? If I'm not going to have the cup of water, then I can't. If any of this isn't clear, then push rewind and listen to me say it again. Okay, why don't you stop and answer the third question right now. Okay, we're going to pause and go on to the fourth halacha. Okay, fourth halacha, this is from the Rambam Parak. Kol mavarach bracha she'eina tzricha, harizeh nosei shein shamayim l'shav, v'hariku nishbel l'shav, v'asur lanos acharav hamei. Whoever, the Rambam says, whoever makes a bracha that he doesn't need to make. In other words, I just stand here, I have no water on my desk anywhere, I just stand here and I say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'akolni b'dvaro. If I said Hashem's name and I made this a real bracha, so then that would be considered saying Hashem's name in vain, almost like I'm taking an oath, a shvuah in vain, which I'm not allowed to do. These are all Torah prohibitions. And afterwards, if anybody was listening, they were not even allowed to answer Amen. So again, what do I have to do? I have to simply say, right, I'm not allowed to make a bracha unless I need to make that bracha. Okay? Why don't you answer the fourth question? Okay, going on now. Let's say I ate something and I forgot to make a bracha. Oh, whoops, I forgot. What do I do? Okay. Okay. If I remembered before I fully digested, sorry, this is talking about benching. If I haven't said Birkat HaMazon, okay, I forgot to say Birkat HaMazon. This isn't talking about the first bracha, but I forgot to say Birkat HaMazon. If I forgot to say Birkat HaMazon, if I remembered, right, Birkat HaMazon is what we say after we eat, okay? If I remembered before I fully digested my food, in other words, I still feel it inside. So in that case, I have to go back and I have to make another bracha, okay? But if I've already digested the food, okay, then I don't go back and make a bracha. We're going to continue in the next video. Stay tuned.